Good morning. Thank you for joining us as we explain more about our journey to Guidewire's cloud platform. And when I say us, I'm talking about EMC. But actually, today you will see three new faces. I'm Jean Johnson. I'm a program manager on the CoreConnect program, which is the title we gave for our movement to Guidewire. And I was actually asked to be on this before our program had a name, before we even had a vendor. I was asked to help with the vendor selection and then asked to stay on to help be part of the program management group as we lead this program. I had the privilege of attending Guidewire's Connections 2019 when we were able to travel. And we were able to visit with an insurance carrier there who had been on the panel as one of the presenters and who had also worked with PwC. We were able to network with them and talk to them about their implementation. And after visiting with them, we knew that we wanted a small group of people to just handle that for us, to take that on. So we asked Chelsea Johnson to join our team and run with it. Chelsea, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Jean. I would love to. So I am Chelsea Johnson, as Jean mentioned. I am a business process consultant with EMC, and I am currently leading the efforts of our transition team, which is responsible for the smooth implementation for Release 1 of our CoreConnect program. So with that name, we have a lot of different roles who have a different interpretation of what CoreConnect means to them. And to me, CoreConnect really means the opportunity for innovation for EMC. It provides us a new way of looking at things, a new way of evaluating what we do, and an option to be innovative into our future to separate ourselves from our competitors. So with the transition team, we have multiple roles. With the program, we have multiple areas and individuals involved. And of those joining us today, we also have Dan, who comes to us from our program sponsors. Dan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks, Chelsea. Hello and welcome. I'm Dan Crew, Senior Vice President, Chief Underwriting Officer, with responsibilities for our corporate office underwriting, safety, and loss control teams. I am also one of the executive sponsors for EMC's CoreConnect, or Digital Transformation Journey. The importance of this journey for us really cannot be overstated. Critical for the organization as a whole, and of course, for underwriting in many, many ways. Let me take a few minutes to level set on the why and the what of our digital transformation. Some of the key challenges we've been facing with our legacy system will likely resonate with many participants in this session. They are varied and numerous, including speed to market, customer experience, technical debt, need for a modern platform to enable enhanced integration with third-party vendors, just to name a few. To initiate the journey, we undertook a deep dive digital transformation strategy planning effort that began in late 2018, and we went through mid-year 2019 to understand our corporate and operational goals and to also assess EMC's ability to support that vision. I know I've mentioned a couple key terms, phrases that may or may not make sense outside of EMC. So what is CoreConnect? It was the first of at least 3 programs mobilized out of the broader strategy effort, and it is focused on creating a new, modern platform to support underwriting, claims, billing, and other core functions by enabling an environment that would allow EMC to be more nimble in operations and to react to changes in the marketplace and drive our profitable growth initiatives. CoreConnect is primarily focused on core legacy system replacement and modernization. Fundamentally, CoreConnect is a Guidewire cloud-based program focused on PolicyCenter, BillingCenter, ClaimCenter, DataHub InfoCenter, ProducerEngage portal, and a variety of other new technologies to create the underlying foundation for the transformation. We began execution approximately 18 months ago, focusing on the GL, commercial property, and inland marine lines with a goal to begin implementation this summer.
So that's where we're headed for this summer. But where are we at right now? Well, we are in System Integration Testing, or SIT. We are also getting ready for UAT, User Acceptance Testing. So what that means is during SIT, we're obviously running into bugs and defects that we're fixing. But in terms of preparing for UAT, we're looking at the scenarios we need, the participants that are going to be provided, because we obviously want more business individuals. And then we plan to have a kickoff meeting. So we're doing some kickoff material right now. We want that kickoff meeting because these are individuals who haven't been involved so far in the program, or at least not very much. We are obviously also considering how it's going to impact our end users. There's a lot of work for that. So I'll let Chelsea explain a little bit more about what they're up to.
Yeah, definitely. As Jean mentioned, there are a lot of changes coming our way to all of our end users. The transition team was developed in order to help smooth out that transition team for those users during our release of CoreConnect. The transition team is responsible for 4 pillars of that change. The first and foremost pillar is change management efforts. So we're looking at what is changing at EMC and what does that change mean for each different role? What users are going to be impacted at what level? The second pillar that we're looking at is our end user training. So not only are end users just going to be impacted by our changes, but they also need to be trained on how to handle those changes. This could be something as small as a new system or a new workflow. It's going to be a lot of change that we're going to have to train on. So we work very collaboratively with all of the different pillars underneath the transition team umbrella. Third pillar up for our transition team efforts is our support framework. We have to have a good framework in place for our go live to ensure that smooth transition, so that way we can support all of our end users as they make this change and as they go through training. That will be a vital piece of all of what we're doing within our work here on the transition team. And then lastly, but definitely not least, is our communication efforts. With each of those prior 3 pillars, it's important that 1, we communicate the change, or 2, we communicate what end users can expect from a training perspective, what's going to happen, and 3, we need to communicate how do they get support, in what manner do they get that. So as Jean mentioned, there's a lot of moving pieces, but we're doing our best in our transition team to bring those all together and put together a plan that will help us be successful with that release of CoreConnect on day 1 for our first branch.
Wow, Chelsea, that is just an amazing and extensive transition plan. Breaking it down a little bit, what have been some of the key focus areas so far? And then secondly, what are some of the items yet to be accomplished?
Yeah, great question, Dan. So we've been focusing on 2 main areas that I'll point out. Our first is our change impact analysis. This is where we're documenting all of the different changes that are happening for which roles and at what level is that change. Is it a high, is it a medium, or is it a low impact? And then what tactical plans do we need in place in order to help make sure that that change gets communicated and put into place and that end users are ready to accept that change. We all know change cannot be the best thing to manage or to handle from an end user perspective, but we're doing our best to make sure that that is also an easy transition for our end users. And then secondly, our main focus, our activity that we've been working on is our training design plan. Now this goes hand in hand with that impact analysis because the impact points out what is changing, and then our training design plan will help us know what exactly do we need to train on. So we have an entire list of activities and tasks that we need to train on, and we're in the midst of building all of the training content to support that training plan. So those have been our 2 areas of focus as of late because those are our 2 largest areas of change happening for our end users. However, as I mentioned before, that support framework cannot be forgotten. So that's the area of opportunity here that we still have some work to be done. We're evaluating what type of support framework do we need in place to help us with supporting all of those end users once we go live. Is it support for training? Is it support just for change management or questions or miscellaneous items? who will be the individuals to help us support all of our end users once we go live, and what does training look like for those individuals who need to help support all of our end users once we go live. So that's an area we still have some work to do. It has not been forgotten, but we're working on it currently. We just have more ground to gain there.
Yeah, there's just so many critical paths to the success of the implementation. And just thinking about what are some of the activities that, as you're initiating them, how will the team measure and assess the success of the implementation? And are there any key metrics for the deliverables?
Yep, this will be an area that is kind of a little bit more difficult to measure, as you can imagine. Most of the activities that we're working on, just by their inherent nature, we're going to have to look at qualitative measures to see how we're doing as a transition team with all of these different moving pieces that we have. One thing that we have begun is a survey. So we've sent out a survey to a select group of our end users. It was actually fairly large. I think about 700 individuals got the survey. And that survey is helping us understand, one, where are we at as a starting point? What is the perception of change? What are end users most scared about? What do they want to know more about? And then over time, we're going to send that survey out periodically to continue to measure to make sure all of the plans that we're putting into place are helping to answer those questions. So we are expecting that as we move forward with more surveys, we will continue to see a positive increase in responses on that and positive feedback that users now are understanding what that change looks like and what we can do to continue to support those areas where there might still be gaps. So that is one area that we've already started. And then our second area, while we don't have any specific key metrics just yet, we are looking at analyzing our support framework. So within that, we can actually track the number of IT tickets that are submitted by end users. This will be vital for when we go live post-training to help us evaluate, was our training successful, or are we seeing a high volume of tickets that could have been covered in training that is not an actual system error. So those are things we'll be checking on. We'll come up with some metrics of what is the ideal state there as far as the number of tickets that we want to see or do not want to see. But we are working very closely with EMC's Learning and Development Department, who has done training before that will help us evaluate the success of the training we plan to provide in this implementation.
So also with all the activities that you are planning now and will be doing, how do you also keep all of the other numerous program team members and the program leadership engaged and involved through the process?
EMC has done an excellent job. I must say, a little biased here, but we've really built a collaborative atmosphere, and that's how we're really keeping everyone involved. So as much as everyone hates to see another meeting show up on their calendar, we do meet with individuals very regularly. These individuals could be product owners, business analysts. I joined the Scrum of Scrum meetings where we talk about what's happening there. Each department gives an update. I have an opportunity to give an update, and we collaborate really closely to make sure that the transition team is getting what they need from each of these areas, as well as that those areas are getting what they need from the transition team. So by building that collaborative atmosphere and really instilling that into the CoreConnect program has helped us be successful in keeping members involved into the future. Another area that you mentioned, we do keep leadership very heavily involved in what we're doing, very heavily updated. And one way that we do that is through our program sponsor meeting. This is a monthly meeting hosted with our program sponsors where multiple areas give updates. But Dan, I know you're all too familiar with that. So would you like to speak some of your experience from those meetings?
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly appreciate the updates that we receive as sponsors and all of the transparency of the communication regarding the work streams. Gene, would you mind talking a little bit more about some of the top priorities for the work that the program teams have remaining and what you can tell us about the status of some of those?
Sure. Well, right now we are finishing up SID, which is going on right now with some defects, some bugs, but they're getting closer to finishing. And then, as I mentioned, we are doing some UAT activities. But one thing I forgot to mention is that we're actually determining our UAT gating criteria. That's the criteria we know we need to have in place before we're able to go through the gate and move to our next phase, UAT. Another thing that all the different work streams are doing is determining the priority of the backlog items. And what I mean by that is not everything was needed to go live day one. So they put some items out of scope for their first day and put it in their backlog. Now we plan to go with iterative releases where we go out with something new periodically, and they need to determine what order their backlog items belong in terms of priority and which release they need to go out in. And last, we are working with some discussions on knowledge transfer, how we can best allow as more EMC team members join, how we can best get the knowledge that PwC has to offer as their counterparts, and how we can get that knowledge transferred to the EMC team members.
So switching topics just a little bit, how do we believe that CoreConnect has positively impacted other areas of EMC? And how have we made those collaborations successful?
Oh, very good question, Dan. I would say one area that we made an improvement from a company-wide standpoint is we helped push Agile with a bigger footprint at EMC. We had been doing Agile before, but not near to this extent. And now we exposed many more people to that. I also think certain concepts that we've brought to the company will continue with large initiatives that EMC has. For example, a transition team. Maybe not as large of a group, but I would think a small subset would do something similar to the transition team and concentrate on the end users and how to have a successful implementation. We've also done certain ceremonies new to EMC, like end-to-end planning, where we consider the work from the beginning to the end and the dependencies that people have on it. I could see something like that continue with other initiatives at EMC. And last, there is a focus group that's cross-department, cross-functional, working on and talking about the future at EMC, that Guidewire will be included, but CoreConnect won't. It will be after our program has been implemented. How does that work with our current plans and what needs to change to make it work? And that collaborative effort is also bringing broader awareness to people outside the program of all the different details that we have going on.
So as we approach our time and wrap up, Jean or Chelsea, do you have any final comments or thoughts you'd like to share?
Sure. I would just like to say thank you to everyone for joining us and listening as we describe our next step in this journey.
And I would just like to echo what Jean had said. A huge thank you to everyone for joining. And most importantly, a huge thank you for PwC for working and collaborating with EMC, as they've really guided us and directed us along this program and our path to success. So I just want to make sure they get some notice there, because it's been absolutely imperative to everything we've been doing.
Thank you, Chelsea. As we've mentioned, EMC's journey doesn't stop with this first go live, and we're looking forward to continuing our digital transformation journey. For all the reasons we outlined at the beginning of this session, it is truly a journey, and we'd welcome the opportunity to provide further updates during future Guidewire connections. From the three of us, thank you for attending our session today, and have a great week.